Today's video is going to be an example, a demonstration.
Actually, it's a real conversation that we've had and decided to record.
Right. We've been asked before by people, how do you really communicate within your relationship around difficult issues? Well, today we are going to give you a demonstration of a real life conversation between us around a very chargy issue that came up in our relationship. Now, what we're doing is we're giving you an example. We've done a lot of work to be able to have one of these kind of conversations. You may be viewing this and you may get really triggered. You may say, that's hard. I could never do something like that. Whatever. We have learned how to do that, and we help people learn how to do that within their relationships. This maintains the health and the vibrancy of a relationship.
And as you pointed out, we've learned how to do this. This conversation, even though it was chargy, was not conflicty. It's a bad word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
It'll work.
It's the kind of conversation that a few years ago would have left me in complete tears if I even brought it up to begin with, and would have been very uncomfortable for you. It's the work that we've done over the last few years that has allowed us to have these types of conversations.
Yes, it definitely takes work, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm. And it's so worth it.
So watch our video, and we hope the demonstration is helpful. If you've got questions about it, contact us.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's not a video. They're just going to hear us because I didn't feel like getting dressed to have the conversation.
That's right. So it's just an audio, guys.
We wanted it to be raw and real.
Yep.
I told you a little while ago that I wanted to talk about a couple of things about last night. And I asked if you were okay if we record this with the eye of possibly sharing it with our YouTube listeners.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're still okay with that?
Well, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
Based on review.
Yep.
Yeah. So last night we decided we needed to let dinner settle before we started on sex. And we got into a situation where I wasn't saying anything. I was waiting for you to say something. And I was starting to get impatient. And then when I finally did say something, I said it poorly. What I did was I asked if you wanted to help with my orgasm practice that I'm currently doing. And it just didn't go over very well. I was feeling a little guilty at the time, feeling like maybe you had lost interest in sex because you hadn't brought it up. And because of the current practice I'm doing, where I'm trying to do this particular reach orgasm every day practice, it was getting late. I needed to get it done. So I was feeling, and I'm wiggling now because I'm feeling it now. I was feeling like I was a bother by asking you if we were going to have sex or not. And then it turned out that I was waiting for you to initiate, you were waiting for me to initiate, and we just plain got our wires crossed. So first of all, I want to apologize for the way I approached it, particularly bringing it up as part of my orgasm practice. I wanted sex with you, but I didn't want you to feel obligated to have sex with me, even though we had already said we were having sex. So I handled that poorly, and I apologize for that. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The other thing is, later on last night, I was talking about my orgasm practice, and I mentioned a particular time where I climaxed twice during my practice. And you made a comment that's bothering me a little bit. And I'm not sure if it was really a flip comment or if there's a grain of truth to it or something. And that your comment was, oh, okay, yeah, so you just don't need me, you need a machine. And I may be getting your words wrong, but that was the gist of it, and that was the feeling of it for me. And I am feeling, well, for one thing, I'm feeling some tightness in my chest just talking about it. I have fear that you took that as feeling like you're not good enough for me, or that it was interpreted as she's a hell of a lot of work. That's the voice in my head is, well, if she needs a machine to climax twice within a half an hour, then something's wrong with her. That's the voice in my head. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So do you even remember that comment?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you tell me some of where you were coming from with that?
Okay. I'd like to go back to the first section.
Okay.
Where we were talking about initiation. You've kind of rolled on beyond that.
Oh, sorry, okay. I'm sorry. I paused. I didn't pause long enough to let you get your words in. So yes, back to the first
Yeah,
section.
it looked like you were not yet complete. So I just let you go on.
Okay.
All right. The first, in my mind, we had already arranged that we were going to have sex. And I was simply waiting for you to accomplish a few of the tasks that you had to perform before you were going to feel comfortable having sex, getting your teeth brushed, doing some stuff in the kitchen that you were doing. And so I was just simply waiting for you to do that rather than grabbing you, throwing you in bed and saying, let's go to it.
Okay.
Which I could have done.
Which I would have actually liked.
But then I was afraid, well, then she's going to be thinking about what's the mess in the kitchen. She's going to be thinking about she didn't get her teeth brushed. And so I just laid back and let you do your thing. And then I knew we'd be ready to get going.
Okay.
So that's what was going on there for me. Now, the other thing, I was being flip.
Okay.
Because I understand, first of all, my ego doesn't bruise as easily as it used to. I've learned to be pretty okay with who I am. So what I was doing was simply making a comment that you really could use something or someone who would be able to keep up with your orgasmic energy. Which I might not be able to always do. And to me, it's more of oh, that's kind of a fun thing to think about, rather than that it's degrading or that it's meaning that I'm no good or that you take too much. That's not how I meant that at all.
Yep. And it was the voice in my head. It's the voice in my head that has been there for a very, very long time. And I do better with it sometimes than others. This particular orgasm practice is bringing up some stuff in me. When I set up the challenge that I set up, I was resistant to putting the goal of climax in the challenge. And because my leg cramps happen at climax, I felt it was important to have that goal of climax in there. So I am actually taking a very, very different approach to my self-pleasure than I normally do. I'm feeding my sexual much more than my sensual, which is my normal self-pleasure practice. And it's bringing some stuff up for me. And one of the things that it's bringing up is you take too fucking long.
Meaning you take too long.
Yeah, that I take too long to climax.
Yep.
I take too much stimulation. I don't really like using the vibrators unless I'm very, very close to climax to begin with. And I've been using it to help me get that climax in at the same time that I'm trying to keep my body relaxed to try to train it to not tense up when I climax. And it's difficult. My body is used to tensing up when I climax. And as you well know, that tensing up can bring on the leg cramps, which can totally blow my arousal out of the water. So the practice itself is bringing a lot of the stuff up. And your comment last night about, well, I guess, whatever it was you said, that it takes a machine for me to get off, hit that trigger.
You kind of fed into it.
Yeah, it hit that trigger that I take too much time, I'm not good enough, so on and so forth. So it's actually kind of good that you made the comment because it's making me address that trigger.
Okay.
And this challenge is turning out to be more challenging than I thought. Let me put it that way. It's turning out to be much more than keeping my body relaxed when I climax so I don't get leg cramps. It's bringing up some things that I thought I had addressed that are still flowing in there a
Sounds
little
like
bit.
it's been a really good challenge then.
Yeah, and I've still got, I don't know, what's today, the 17th or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've still got a couple weeks of it to go. So we'll see where it leads. Okay. So I don't think we need to clear up anything more about your comment.
Okay.
I think we're clear on that, don't you?
I think so.
Okay. The initiation thing. It's one of those cases where, once again, we got crossed wires. I got in my head, started reading things into it. I actually would have liked you to grab me and say, come on, it's time for sex. And I understand why you were concerned that I would be stuck in my head about, well, I still need to do this, I still need to do that. I understand that. So may I suggest that sometime you try that? And I'm not saying that I'm not going to get stuck in my head. I'm not saying that I'm not going to say, well, I've got to do this, 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 and this first, but let's try it and see where it goes. Are you willing to give it a try? Is it and willing to take if
3 minutes into things you said, oh, geez, I forgot that left that dish sitting out.
Or Smokey hasn't been fed. Actually, I think feeding Smokey before we got started was an absolute necessity, because otherwise he'd be outside the door going, blah, blah, feed me, feed me, feed me. And that would have taken me into my head. So are you willing to give it a try sometime?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you have to say?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you talking with me about this.
Yep.
And I love you.
I love you too, sweetie.